Hi everyone and welcome back to my class. This is Unit 2 that's gonna be about the phrase. So in the previous unit, Unit 1, we've discussed a lot about the part of speech. And I have to say that you have to apply those knowledge to this unit as well because we are going to differentiate the type of the phrase according to the part of speech. So I'm pretty sure that if you understand everything about the part of speech, you'll be able to understand the concept of the phrase as well. So if you miss some information or if you have forgotten some of the information about part of speech, you're more than welcome to watch my video once again about the part of speech. Alright, so it's time for the phrase. As you know that the word is the smallest level of the language, or another word I have to say that a word is the smallest independent unit of the language that can stand alone. And once that we just combine words together, and what we're gonna get is the phrase. So what is a phrase? The phrase is a group of words that stand together as a single unit. So we combine words together like a set or a string of words, and those group of words will be used at once. Probably it can be the subject, it can be the verb, or whatever that can be the function in the sentence, okay? And they can be a part of a clause or a sentence, just a part. Don't forget this, okay? And it does not contain a subject and verb and cannot convey a complete thought. So I have to say that a phrase can act as the subject, but we cannot say that a phrase is like a complete thought and with the subject, verb, or an object. So it's not like the sentence. So it's just a smaller unit if we compare to the clause or the sentence, but it's bigger than a word. Alright? What can we do with the phrase? The phrase can be used as a noun, verb, adverb, adjective, preposition in a sentence. So you can see that it's pretty similar to the part of speech. Yes, you are right, because we are relying on the way of differentiating the part of speech. Just make it bigger, okay? Just make it bigger. So the function of a phrase depends on its construction. So we will see, okay, whether like the word that they contains in that phrase, that are like the head word that is in that phrase, that will be the most important part of the phrase, and that we will use that word in order to divide or differentiate each type, okay? And basically, if we just talk about the functions and constructions, the phrase can be divided into 10 common types for English grammar. Let's see. The first one, we start with the noun phrase. Just like the part of speech, right? We normally start with the noun. So you know that noun is used in order to name person, place, animal, thing, concept, idea. That's the same thing, okay? That's the same thing. But for the noun phrase, it means that you are combining other components rather than just the noun. And will look like this. Noun phrase consists of a noun as the head word, okay? We have now as the head word, and then we just add other words to that noun to make it bigger, to make it a phrase. So they usually use some kind of word that is called modifiers, or probably determiners, okay? And that it's possible to be before or after that noun. And the whole phrase functions as a noun in a sentence. So can you remember? If we are talking about the function of the noun in the sentence, the noun can be the subject of the sentence, object of the sentence. What else? It can be subject complement and object complement as well. So if we compare like the function of the noun and the phrase in the sentence, that will be exactly the same, okay? and the pattern look like this. You can see in red, the word in red is the head word, and here we are talking about the noun phrase. So the head word is the noun, okay? In red you can see. And on the left, it's possible that we can use some kind of modifiers. What is modifiers for the noun? Can you remember? Which type of the part of speech is used in order to describe the noun? Think about this. That is adjectives. That's right. So for optional modifiers that I mentioned in this slide, it means that we can use some adjectives to modify the noun. So what about optional modifiers on the right? So it's possible that we can have some kind of other phrase to modify this noun. Okay, but anyway, you can find the head word within the noun phrase. I will show you some examples of the noun phrase here. The boy with blonde hair is laughing. The boy with blonde hair is laughing. So can you just guess from the first phrase which word is the head word of this phrase? Well, that is the word boy. That is the word boy. So you can see that if I just mark the word boy in red, that is determiner. That is on the left. I mean before the noun. And with blonde hair, that is some kind of modifier that is possible to be right after the head word. Okay, that is possible. Next one. A man on the road was fighting. Once again, it's pretty similar because the word man is the head word for this noun phrase, and a or e, that is the article before this noun. On the road, that is preposition phrase right after that noun. So it means that if we are talking about the noun phrase with modifier after the noun, they normally are preposition phrases. Okay? But if you see the third one, the bewildered tourist was lost. Where is the head word for this phrase? That's gonna be the word tourist, right? The word tourist, the bewildered, that is the adjective to modify the word tourist. And in this case, the head word will be on the rightmost. Okay? Because without the preposition phrase, the head word of the noun phrase will be on the right. Next one. The old man was confused. The head word is the word man, and the and old, they are adjectives to modify the word man. Okay? He is wearing a nice blue shirt. The head word is the word shirt. A nice blue, they are adjectives. She brought a glass full of juice. So here the head word is the word glass. The sports car drove the long and winding road. So we have two phrases here, two noun phrases. The first one, the sports car, and the head word is the word car. And what about another phrase? The head word is the word road, right? The girl with hazel eyes bought a beautiful car. So we have like two different constructions of two phrases. The first one, the girl with hazel eyes. You can see that we have the head word in the middle because we have article at the first, right, before the head word. And then we have with hazel eyes. That is the preposition phrase right after that head noun. Alright? But for another one, a beautiful car. This is a simple one because we have the head word, that is the noun phrase. We have the head word on the rightmost of that phrase. Okay, so the noun phrase look like this, and you can see the function of them. We normally use the noun phrase as the subject of the sentence, right? We have so many examples from this, and also it can be used as the object of the sentence as well. Okay, so don't forget that if the noun can act as subject, object, or whatever, noun phrase can act like that too. Okay, so that's about the noun phrase. I can say that the noun phrase is the simplest type of the phrase that can be identified. Okay, next one, let's move on. Luckily, we don't have pronoun phrase because pronoun have to be used as a single word, okay? But next is the verb phrase. So think about the name, verb phrase. So the head word should be the verb, that's right. So this is the combination of main verb, can you remember? And its auxiliaries or helping verbs in a sentence. So it means that for the verb phrase, it's possible that we have the main verb as the head word, okay? But it's possible that we can have some kind of auxiliary or some kind of verb ending when it's necessary, okay? It's quite like the noun. I have to say that if we are talking about the noun, if it's only one word, actually it can be the noun phrase too. What about the verb phrase? If there is only one main verb, it's possible that we can say that, oh, this is the verb phrase as well, okay? And for the verb phrase, it can consist of main verb, its auxiliaries, its complements, and other modifiers. Let's think about this. So it can refer to the whole predicate of a sentence. Let's see this word, about the word predicate. I have to tell you that in one sentence, it can be divided into two parts. The first part is called the subject part, and another part that starts from the verb phrase that will be called predicate. And I will explain you more details about the subject and predicate when we are discussing about the sentence once again. Okay, but the pattern looks like this for the verb phrase. You can see in red, that is the main verb, and that is the head word for the verb phrase. And on the left, it can be the optional auxiliary verbs. The reason why we have to say optional, that's because in some of the tense, we don't need the auxiliary, right? Just like the affirmative of the present simple. We don't need any like do, does, or stuff like that if it's just the statement. Okay, but if we are using some kind of like present continuous, yes, we need auxiliary. But what about verb ending when necessary? So it's possible to be some object in case that your main verb is transitive or probably ditransitive. So for the verb phrase, if you are looking for the verb phrase in the sentence, my recommendation is just like this. We need to find the main verb first. Okay, you just circle the main verb and then just look before the main verb whether there are there any auxiliary verbs there. Okay, you have to include that auxiliary verb as well, and then from that auxiliary until the end of the sentence, that can be verb phrase. Okay, very easy for this one. Okay, just accept those noun phrase as the subject. We don't include that into the verb phrase. Just think about, all right, here is the main verb and the auxiliary before that. Okay, that is a good start for the verb phrase. Let's see. He is eating an apple. We start from the main verb eating, right? And we have the word is as the auxiliary or the helping verb. And an apple, that is the direct object of this sentence. Okay, she has completed her task. The head word is the word completed, but we have auxiliary and also some kind of modifiers or like the object of this verb as well. You should prepare for the exam. The word prepare is the head word. Okay, and we have some kind of optional modifiers both before and after the head word. She has been working for 2 hours. The word working as the head word plus some kind of optional modifiers. He was waiting for the rain to stop. The word waiting, that is the head word. You have been sleeping for a long time. The word sleeping, that is the hate word. Good. You might enjoy a massage. So the word enjoy, that is hate word. So all of them can see that we have both main verb plus auxiliary before the hate word. Okay, and also my examples includes some kind of optional, but actually you can see that we have like object of the sentence and also prepositional phrase at the end in order to complete the sentence. Okay, but it's also possible like if you say she smiles, so that's it, the word smiles can be the verb phrase because we have like the hate word as the main verb as the hate word of that phrase, and that's it. Okay, next is adjective phrase. Okay, adjective phrase, that is a group of words that works like an adjective in a sentence. So everything exactly the same with the part of speech, right? And it consists of adjectives, modifier, and any word that modifies a noun or pronoun. Okay, but the hate word is adjective. Okay, if we are talking about the adjective phrase, even we are using them in order to modify a noun or pronoun. But the hate word is just the adjective. And we are going to use this to modify the noun later, to make it into noun phrase. Okay? Now, what is the pattern of the adjective phrase? You can see in red, that is the adjective, that is the hate word of this phrase. But it's possible that we can have even more adjective or some kind of adverb to modify the adjective, right? Can you remember about the adverb? Because the adverb can be used to describe verb, adjective, and adverbs, right? So here we can use those adverbs in order to modify the adjective here. How it looks like. Let's see the examples for adjective phrase. The first one, he is wearing a nice blue shirt. I think you are quite familiar with this sentence because when we've discussed about the verb phrase, I have shown this sentence before, right? Because he is wearing a nice blue shirt, that is verb phrase. That is a verb phrase. And you can see that we also have the noun phrase in this sentence. Where is that? Noun phrase. That is a nice blue shirt. Very good. Because you can see the word shirt as the hate word of this phrase, right? But within the noun phrase, we also have the adjective phrase in this phrase. Okay? Phrase in phrase. Okay? Nice blue. We have the word blue as the hate word of this adjective phrase, but we have the word nice to modify. What about the next sentence? The girl with blonde hair is singing a song. Even only one word, it can be claimed as the phrase as well, because the word blonde is the adjective, that is the hate word for this phrase. Okay, even it's alone, that's fine, no worries. Okay, but we just use the word blonde to modify the word hair. Oh, if we go back to the first one, we also use the word nice blue, this phrase, to modify the word shirt. So that is exactly the same function as the adjective, right? Because we normally use the adjective to modify or to describe pronouns or nouns. Okay, what about the next one? That's a lovely cake. So the word lovely, that is the adjective or adjective phrase to modify the word cake. These flowers are wonderful. Even we have only one word. Okay, only one word there can be used as the adjective phrase too, and that is to modify these flowers, and it appears right after verb to be. That is exactly the same position as the adjective. That soup is pretty cold. So what about this one? Where is the hate word for this phrase? We are talking about the adjective phrase, right? the head word here is the word cold, right? But the word pretty, that is adverb of degree. You're right. Okay, so that is the adverb of degree to modify the adjective phrase, but that's okay, no problem. Okay, next one. Many of the exercises are fairly difficult. Where is the head word? Fairly or difficult? That should be the word difficult on the right? That is normally the head word appears at the rightmost. And the word fairly, that is adverb of degree. Okay, the food was tasty enough. What about this one? We have the word tasty and we have the word enough. Which one is the head word for this adjective phrase? This one is a little bit different from others because if we are using the word enough to modify something, it depends, right? But here we are using the word enough to modify the adjective, and that is after the word tasty or after adjective. Okay, but the word tasty, that is the head word of this adjective phrase, and we have the modifier that is adverb of degree, that is the word enough. Okay, all right, let's move on to the fourth type of the phrase. That is called adverbial phrase, or probably you just say adverb phrase, that's fine. Okay, they consist of one or more words. Exactly, it happens like with noun, verb, adjective, adverb as well. The adverb is the head of the phrase and can appear alone, or it can be modified by other words, and the pattern looks like this. We have the adverb here, like the head word, but we also have some kind of modifiers before or after, so it can be like some adverb of degree that we've discussed, right? It can be used before or after in order to modify the adverb, which is the head word of this phrase. Okay, here is the examples for adverbial phrase. We usually go on holiday in August. As I told you that it's possible to have only one word in the phrase. Time goes very quickly. So where is the head word for this sentence, for this phrase? We have the word quickly as the head word of this phrase, right? And we use the word very to modify as a modifier. Okay? But the adverb phrase is very quickly. The day passed quickly enough. The word quickly again. Yes, the word quickly is also the head word of this phrase. But if we are using the word enough in order to modify this adverb, we need to put it after. Okay, so even like the word quickly is the head word, but the modifier can be, it's possible to be right after it as well. Okay, this works really well for its sides. The word well is the head word, and we use the word really. The word really, that is adverb of degree. Can you remember? We also have the word very, really, they are adverb of degree to modify another adverb. And luckily for us, the cost was not so high, so the word luckily itself can be adverbial phrase. We kept the new money quite separately from what we'd already collected. So here we have the word separately as the head word of this adverbial phrase, and we use the word quite, that is adverb of degree, as the modifier. And we have two words, right, in this phrase, but the word separately, that is the head word. Okay, let's move on to another one, that is prepositional phrase. So I have to say that from noun phrase, verb phrase, adjective phrase, and adverbial phrase, most of the head word will be on the rightmost. Okay, in case that we don't have something else after that head word, or it's possible to use it like alone, alone as only one word. But if it is the prepositional phrase, it's impossible to be at the rightmost of the phrase. Because if you are using the prepositional phrase, that should be at the beginning, okay, at the beginning of the phrase. And we still use the preposition with the noun phrase, pronoun, or gerund. Okay, so here is the formula, here is the patterns for the prepositional phrase. We start with the preposition and then it must be followed with noun phrase, probably like pronoun or gerund or some kind of possibilities. Okay, but in the sentence we normally use them as the adjective or an adverb. Alright, and the word or any components right after the preposition, it would be called object of the preposition. Okay, and here is the example how we use the prepositional phrase in the sentence. A boy on the road is singing a song. So in the sentence, in the first sentence, we can see that we have so many phrases, but I just want to emphasize on the road, this phrase. Okay, I would emphasize on this phrase only, on the road. So we start with the preposition on, and the road, that is the noun phrase. So it's just like the patterns that I mentioned, right? We need to start from the preposition and then followed by the noun phrase. And we use on the road in order to modify the noun. So you can see that the preposition phrase is used a little bit different from just the preposition. Because if it's just the preposition, we just use them to tell the location or to tell like the relationship between two nouns or pronouns within the sentence, right? But here we use the prepositional phrase in order to modify. It turns to be the adjective. Sometimes it turns to be some kind of adverb. Really interesting, okay? Next one, the man in the room is our father. So in and then the room. So you can see like the patterns like this along the way until the last examples. And we use in the room to modify the man. Okay. The book was on the table. So on the table, that is the prepositional phrase, and we use that in order to talk about the book, to modify the book, and it's used right after the verb to be, exactly the same as adjective. Okay, he was between a rock and a hard place. Between a rock and a hard place, definitely you will see preposition and then noun. She is shouting in a loud voice, preposition in and the noun voice. He always treats in a good manner, preposition in and the noun manner. We camped by the brook, the preposition by and the noun brook. She was lost in the dark of night. Here we have in the dark of night. We have the first preposition phrase, that is dark, and then the word in, that is the preposition. And we also have another preposition phrase to modify the word dark, like double modifiers. This one. What about the next one? I waited for a while, and we have the preposition for and the word while as the noun. She smelled of strawberries and cream. We have the word of as the preposition, and strawberries and cream, that is the noun. So all of them, we follow the pattern of preposition and then noun phrase, preposition and noun phrase. But apart from just the noun phrase, it's possible that you can use the pronoun or gerund as well, because they can act as the noun. Okay, next one, it's called infinitive phrase. So before, you can like compare with the part of speech, right? Because we have noun phrase, verb phrase, adjective phrase, adverbial phrase and prepositional phrase because they are pretty similar to those of part of speech. But for the letter 5, there will be something else. Okay, here is the infinitive phrase. So what is infinitive? Here I will talk about to infinitive. Okay, to infinitive. That consists of an infinitive that is to and then a simple form of that verb, and then with some kind of modifiers or other words related to that infinitive. And we can use them as an adjective, adverb, or probably a noun in a sentence. And it looks like this. We start with the infinitive and then object or some kind of modifiers. Like this one. To earn money is a desire for everyone. Here in this sentence, you can see like the position of this infinitive phrase. It acts as the, can you guess? To earn money and then verb. So that is the position of the subject. That's right. To donate time or money is an honorable thing. So to donate time or money, that is the subject. Good. She likes to read novels. So to read novels can be the object. And the object of the word, of the verb likes. Everybody loves to watch movies. To watch movies, that is the object of this sentence. The company decided to reduce hours for everyone. He shouted to inform people about fire. I went to Spain to study the language, and he made a plan to buy a flat. So you can see from the position of the infinitive phrase used in the sentence, right? If it starts at the beginning of the sentence, I mean before the verb, that is the position of the subject. But if it appears right after the verb, and that's gonna be the object of the sentence. Okay, let's move on to another one. So it's not only infinitive phrase, what we have here, that is participial phrase. How does it look like for the participial phrase? So you need to think about present participle. Present participle is verb plus ing suffix. Okay, and for past participle, that is verb and then ed or some other form of the irregular verbs. Okay, so it means that if we are talking about a participial phrase, there will be two forms. Okay, there will be two forms, verb ing, or it can be verb ed or the past participle form of that verb. Okay, and modifiers or other related or other associated words. Okay, and participial phrase is normally separated by commas, and we normally use them as the adjective in a sentence. Okay, and it will look like this. We have some kind of participle plus the object or some kind of optional modifiers, and we also make use of the comma for participial phrase, and we use in the sentence like this: the kids making a noise need food. So here is the form of present participle, right? Because we are using ing form. But this participial phrase that is making a noise, this is used to modify the kids. Actually, I have to say that this is like a short form. If you just imagine like the longer sentence, it's from the kids who make a noise need food. But we just omit that kind of clause. And we just make it into a phrase and just try to make it like shorter to modify the word kids. Okay, we are not using the clause here. I received a letter mentioning about my job. Okay, again, mentioning about my job, that is to talk about a letter. But actually, before we can say, I received a letter which is mentioning or which was mentioning about my job. You just don't want to talk about the class and you just use this way by using the participial phrase. That's fine, that's perfect. But here this one, the chair made of steel is too expensive. How are they different? Why the first two we use the present participle? What about the third sentence? Why we use the past participle? So in this case, because of passive voice structure, right? Because it's from the chair which was made of steel is too expensive. Okay, so it's also like the clause, but it's with the passive voice structure. So we cannot use ing, but we need to use the past participle instead. So we can say the chair made of steel, but anyway, made of steel is used to modify the word chair. We saw a car damaged in an accident. So damaged in accident, that is participial phrase to modify a car. Washed with my clothes. My cell phone no longer worked. So washed with my clothes, that is to modify my cell phone. We are looking forward to the movie. Having seen the trailer last week to modify the movie. Painted a brilliant white, the small room appeared bigger. That is to modify the word room. The lake, frozen over all winter, was finally thawing. So frozen over all winter, that is to modify the word lake. Okay, so you may wonder, it looks like verb phrase, right? It looks like verb phrase. But you can see that if you are using like ing, you need the auxiliary. But from these participial phrases, you cannot see any auxiliary, right? But what about like ed? If you're talking about the verb phrase, it's possible, right? I made something. So the word made and the latter part, we can say that is the verb phrase. But like in the sentence, the chair made of steel is too expensive. We still need the main verb. Which word is the main verb in this sentence? We cannot say that the word made is the main verb, but the word is the main verb of this sentence. So it's different, right? It's different. Or what about the last one? The lake, frozen over all winter, was finally thawing. So you can see that we have thawing, that is the main verb at the end of the sentence. We also have the word was, that is auxiliary. So frozen over all winter, that is not the verb phrase. It cannot be the verb phrase, but it should be participial phrase as it's used to modify the lake. Okay. Next one, that is gerund phrase. You can see, I think that everyone knows that like the form of the gerund is ing. Oh, so how are they different if we compare to the participial phrase with verb ing? So if it's verb ing, that is the participial phrase, we use them in order to be the adjective to modify the noun. Okay, they act as the adjective to modify the noun. I mean, that is for the participial phrase. But if it is the gerund phrase, we use them as a noun. Okay, so you need to divide, you need to separate these two phrases. Once again, participial phrase, particularly ing form, we use them in order to be an adjective to modify the noun. But here, this is the gerund phrase. Even it's ing form, but we use them as a noun in a sentence. So if it is a noun, so it can be the subject, it can be the object. Is that right? Okay, and the gerund can be followed by some kind of object or some kind of optional modifiers. Let's see. Crying of a baby woke him up. Taking my dog for a walk is fun. Walking in the rain can be difficult. Getting a sore back was the result of the golf game. I like writing good essays. she started thinking about the future. So all of them start with ing. I mean all of these gerund phrases, right? Crying, taking, walking, getting, writing, and thinking. And they act as the noun. Because we are not using them in order to modify something else, but is used as the subject or probably the object. You can see the first 4 sentences. They are at the position of the subject and then followed by the verb, right? Crying of a baby, that is the subject. And woke up, wake up, that is the verb, and then him is the object. Again, taking my dog for a walk, that is the subject, is linking verb, and that is the main verb. Walking in the rain, that is the subject, and then can be difficult, that is a part of the verb. Getting a sore back, that is the subject. But for the last 2 sentences, I like something. Writing good essays, that is the object of this sentence. Or she started what? Thinking about the future. So that is, it acts as the noun, right? It acts as the noun. It can be the object of this sentence. So totally different if you compare between gerund phrase, okay, and participial phrase. Okay, we have 2 more to go. Appositive phrase. I think we rarely hear these words, right? Appositive. What is a positive phrase? An appositive phrase restates. So just think about this keyword, to restate, to retell, to emphasize a noun and consists of 1 or more words. So it's possible for appositive phrase as well that it's gonna be only 1 word or more than 1 word. But anyway, it's used to restate, okay? Not to modify or not to act as the noun, as the subject or as the object of the sentence. No, just to restate a noun. And it will look like this. My favorite pastime, needlepoint, surprises some people. So we just use the word needlepoint to restate the pastime. And it's possible to remove this if you don't want to restate that noun once again. You can just say, my favorite pastime surprises some people, okay? But this is just to restate, just to emphasize. Or her horse, an Arabian, was her pride and joy. If you don't want to mention once again about its nationality of that horse, that's fine. Just say, her horse was her pride and joy. Okay? My wife, the love of my life, is also my best friend. Just to restate about wife. A cheetah, the fastest land animal, can run 70 miles an hour. That is to restate, right? To emphasize once again. His goal, to retire at 40, is unrealistic. My idea to recycle the paper was accepted by the boss. The Florida panther, the state animal of Florida, is an endangered animal. Okay, so you can see that for the appositive phrase, it's pretty hard to conclude like the exact form of them. It can be the noun, it can be the noun phrase, or it can be 2 infinitive phrase. But think about the function. Okay, think about the function. If it is the noun phrase, to restate another noun, right? Or even 2 infinitive or infinitive phrase, we are not using them to restate. But we normally use the noun phrase and infinitive phrase as the noun itself. So appositive phrase is different. Okay, it's different. Alright, here is the last one, the last type of the phrase, that is absolute phrase. So I can say that appositive phrase and absolute phrase, they are good friends. That's because if it is appositive phrase, we use them to restate, like the noun, okay, to restate the noun. Normally like the subject of the sentence, right? But if it is the absolute phrase, we use them to modify the whole sentence. The whole sentence. Even though the pattern it's pretty easy to predict, but we have to say that it's totally different from the noun phrase. Here is the pattern. We have the head word as the noun, okay? And we also have some kind of modifiers right before and after this head word. But if we compare to the noun, you will definitely see that we are using the noun phrase and the absolute phrase differently, okay? His tail between his legs. The dog walked out the door. So we just used his tail between his legs to modify the whole sentence. And we have the dog as the noun phrase in this sentence. Okay, so totally different. Picnic basket in hand. She set off for her date. And we use picnic basket in hand to modify the whole sentence. The guides attacked the pile of nachos, their fingers skating the last bit of cheese off the plate to modify the whole sentence. Their heads hanging down, the whole group apologized, or even the entire team, their uniforms muddy and stained, shouted for joy. So you can see that the form of the absolute phrase and the noun phrase are pretty similar, but the function are totally different. That's because for the noun phrase, they can be used as the subject or object of the sentence. But the absolute phrase, we are not using them in that way. But we use absolute phrase in order to modify the whole sentence. Okay? So it means that for the absolute phrase will be used for the whole sentence. But if it is for the appositive phrase, that's gonna be just to restate the noun. Okay? Just to restate the noun. So all in all, I can say that these 10 types of the phrases, they are having different functions. So if you have a chance to identify the phrase in the sentence, do not think only about the patterns, okay? But think about the function that is used in that sentence as well. Because if you stick with the patterns, like, okay, this is the noun, this is the verb, this is the adjective, etc., and then you may miss the function of each type of the phrase. Because as you can see, right, like the absolute phrase or like the appositive phrase, it looks like others, but the function are totally different. Alright, so that's all for the phrase that we've discussed for this video. Thank you very much for joining my session and see you again in the next unit. Bye!